Assalamu alaikum, Your Excellency, Your Excellencies, Excellencies from the embassies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the CEO panel. As we heard, unfortunately, our chairman of the panel, Warit Al-Kharousi, has a family emergency, and he's not able to make it in person here, but he has sent his best wishes to us all here. So if I could welcome one by one the panelists. First of all, Amar Abdullah Baabood, if you could sit down and chair the panel discussion. I would like to welcome Dr. Fatma Mohammed Al-Balushi. Dr. Fatma is the Deputy Director General for Administrative and Financial Affairs at the Oman Association for Quality Assurance. Please welcome Dr. Fatima. I would now like to welcome Dr. Yasmin Shannan Al-Balushi. Dr. Yasmin is a Senior Advisor at the Royal Academy of Management. Please welcome Dr. Yasmin. I would now like to welcome Craig Williamson. Craig Williamson is the Head of School of ABA Oman International School. Please we'll welcome Mr. Craig Williamson. Now we'd like to welcome Najah Al-Rashdi. Najah Al-Rashdi is the Director General of the Innovation Center of the Ministry of Higher Education, Research and Innovation. Please welcome Najah. We'd like to welcome Dr. Shadha Al Amri. Shadha Al Amri is the Head of Entrepreneurship and Innovation Department at the University of Technology and Applied Sciences, UTAS. Dr. Shadha Al Amri. And our final panelist, Saud Al Zakwani. Saud Al Zakwani is the Head of Data Science at Oman's Petroleum Development, Oman. So we welcome Saud Al Zakwani to the panel. If my colleagues could bring the microphones to the panelists, we could start the panel discussion. The format of the panel discussion is that Amar and myself will ask some questions to the distinguished panelists, and of course it's open for the audience to ask a few questions as well. So I'd like to pass on to Amar Abdullah Baabood, who's the CEO of the Arabian Research Bureau, and he's the organizer of the GEDEX group of exhibitions.
Thank you, Sadiq, for the introduction, and thank you for the great speakers on this panel. It's a great pleasure to be on here with you. All of us send our best wishes and prayers to Mr. Warith and his family, and all our condolences to him and his family. And there's also a big loss not also having him here, because he is a very great chair for such panels. But we will do our best to cover for him. So we will then start with Dr. Fatma, who is the Deputy Director General for Administration of Financial Affairs at OAAAQA. So our question for you is in relation to future skills. Are they only IT related? And is it really a matter at all levels of an company or institute, government body? Is it an important topic?
Assalamu alaikum. Actually, I don't think so, because when we talk about organizational levels, we as organizations, sometimes we require very professional people, and sometimes we require very, with due respect to all, we require some certain jobs to be done with people with low skill. So I don't think it's very important. It's good to have the knowledge, and this is what has been done by Ministry of Education. And it has been also continued by Ministry of Higher Education. I mean, the higher education and school education, they are doing good, let's say, by giving the overall knowledge for all kinds of specializations the workforce is requiring. But IT skills, like, let's say, if, for example, I would like to hire a driver. Is it important for him, for the job itself, in order to be delivered in the right way and as expected by the organization, that he should know about artificial intelligence and he should know about coding and all these, you know, complicated programming languages? No, I don't think so, because we require certain job to be done, as I said, by certain qualifications, certain, you know, capabilities and competencies. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So you're saying that it's more important at the higher levels, and is that in each industry as well, depending on the industry?
Yes, even if we go for private sector, like oil and gas industry, they also, if we take the same example as driver, is it important for them to have him like having AI courses, for example, or coding courses into his resume in order to be assigned a job? No, I don't think so. From the organizational perspective, I see it that if I want programmer, the programmer has to have a set of skills which will give me a sign to recruit him that he is capable to do the job in the right way and deliver it on, you know, accurately as possible, because it's difficult to have a code and the end result is not accurate. So there are certain set of skills has to be for certain jobs. It's not applied for all.
And that's interesting because such jobs, I think, which, you know, we would class as maybe the lower skill jobs are the jobs which will maybe be replaced first, right? The jobs which are automated. For example, you mentioned drivers, for example. Yes. When we have the self-driving cars, maybe we won't need them anymore. Or maybe the tellers who work in the shops, when you go to make payment, we won't need them anymore. So those are also the ones will be replaced. So that's...
Actually, to near future, these jobs are required. Maybe the technology will help them in order to not make accidents. Let's say 0 accidents in oil and gas field. For example, maybe it will give them an alert that was driving for a number of hours and he should take rest and he shouldn't exceed the limits, the speed limits, and even the working hours, he has to rest at a certain time. But still we need them for maybe 5 years coming. Still we need drivers, we need some sort of jobs need to be carried out, and we will have some job vacancies for them.
Shukran. Thank you, Dr. Fatma. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Fatma. Our next question would be to Dr. Yasmin Al-Balushi. Dr. Yasmin is a senior advisor at the Royal Academy for Management. So our question is from a leadership development perspective. So Dr. Yasmin, how do you see leaders developing their future skills, capabilities and knowledge? And could you talk a bit about how important it is for leaders to focus on future skills?
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I guess future skills, of course, everyone talked since morning about the importance of the future skills. At the Royal Academy, and looking from the leadership development perspective in the executive education, we are taking that into consideration from the beginning. I was honored to work on 2 national projects with His Excellency Sayyid Salim for the private sector leaders in the middle management and senior management, where the Ministry of Labor were trying to support the private sector to uplift the skills of the leaders who are there and empower them to take better positions in the private sector. Going back to the question that you asked, Dr. Fatma, it is interesting when we were dealing with the private sector, we found that most of the competency skills that they need were not technology-based. They were far more advanced in technology, but they lacked interpersonal skills. Skills like negotiation, skills like problem solving, skills like critical thinking, skills like communication, as basic as communication that we take it for granted, that it is there. So when we have done the analysis of the need, where are the gaps, why the private sector are not seeking the leaders who are Omanis, these are the skills they say that the people who are there in the workforce, who already had experience and education, whether it is professional education, like Dr. Nabila was referring to, whether it is an academic education, what Dr. Taqi was referring to, they come to the job market and they go through the ladder and the experience, and then there is a clash there, or there is a stage where they stop there because they have the technical skills and they lack the interpersonal skills and leadership mindset. How, as leaders, they are taking decisions, which was one of the very critical competencies and skills were highlighted. Fortunately, the Royal Academy of Management was established, and both private sector and government sector were taken into consideration, and now working with the government sector, whether they are directors, DGs, undersecretaries, or even the government themselves. For each of the layers, it is very important to identify what kind of skills they need. The skills we needed for the government level is not the same that I needed for the director and supervisor level. There is a huge gap. The middle management, they are more taking role more of the operational part and implementation part of the policy, where the upper management are more engaged in the policy making and policy driving and policy designing and planning. So because of their roles, and they are taking, different set of skills is needed from each of these levels. So when we are designing the programs for them, we are taking into consideration what kind of a skill set needed for that part of the position, for that person who is sitting in that chair to do their job more successfully. And I think here when we come to determine what kind of skills, of course technology advancement are there, but as you have seen in Dr. Nabila's also slides, some interpersonal skills like emotional intelligence, some interpersonal skills like communication are very much needed to the leadership scenarios. So this is what I can say regarding the question that you asked me, Sadiq.
Thank you for that, Dr. Yasmin. So you mentioned emotional intelligence. Is that something which is currently being taught in Oman? I know that, for example, something like curiosity is something which is a topic which is being taught in some institutes in some countries. Are these being taught in Oman currently?
I'm aware of the portfolio of education and higher education. Yes, they are trying to inject these kind of doses in the curriculum. But as the previous speakers have said, that we really need to increase that effort more and more. And I think Dr. Nabila talked about the need for it and the gap that is there. But when we go back to your question, whether emotional intelligence and all these skills, in majority of the executive education, I was having a conversation with one of the gurus of emotional intelligence, Dr. Salih Al-Shamfari here.
Yes.
And to what extent we utilize the expertise of such people who have the knowledge and experience of emotional intelligence when it comes to the executive education, and how we can infuse these skills. Majority of the private sector, when they're coming to the executive education, they demand, in fact, certain kind of, whether, let's say, psychometric tests to see what are the level of intelligence that these people have when it comes to emotion. How do they manage their own and other people's emotion, and accordingly, how that enables them to take a better decision when it comes to the productivity to the organizations. Of course, all that link is a huge topic to talk about, yes. But having said that, we are yet lacking it in our curriculum. We are yet lacking it in many of the education system. People realize it when people come to the job places. or they have a degree in IT, but he is unable to communicate with his peer. He is the guru in accounting, but he is unable to solve any negotiation process. He is unable to connect to others in his own job places. So these skills become the gap that we analyze, and then we try to support the organization through the executive.
Thank you, Dr. Yasmin.
Can I add something?
Of course, go ahead.
Actually, during this week, the framework for the competency for HRD, at all levels of, let's say, they will start, the project is championed by Ministry of Labor. His Excellency is here if you would like to know more about it. The competency framework has been established, so all HR departments, the team there are working for this, to build the framework for this competency for all organizational levels, all the jobs which there. So I think the gap will be covered in a way or the other, that we will specify for top management what is the competency level requires, and what are the training and what are the skills needs to be there in order to reach that level, and middle managers and other staff. So the government is doing into that part, so let's see the implementation. Maybe next year we can discuss the framework.
Yes.
Thank you.
Inshallah, shukran, Doctor. Next question is for Craig Williamson, who is the head of school at ABA. Craig, ABA is an IB school, so we want to know, how does IB differ in regards to preparing students for the future?
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you for having me here today, and much respect, and thanks to everyone who put and organized such a great event. So I appreciate being here. So I have the privilege of working at ABA and leading there, and we are an IB school. And just to give a little context of that, there are many schools, different flavors, and so on and so forth, and I'm not here to say one is good and one is bad. That's not my job, not my role, and not what I believe. But what I would say about it, and why I do believe in an IB education, and why I choose to work at them, but also have my own children in them, is because there's three facets of an IB education that I think, honestly, I think every school should just be. There shouldn't really be an IB school. There should just be school that has these three pillars that IB education has. First is, you need to have that academic rigor. It's not going away. 2 + 2 is always going to be 4. There's going to be foundational skills and knowledge sets that people need to have, children need to have, and they grow up. And they need to develop it for university and after university and college and so on and so forth. And I think at that one facet, most schools around the world, regardless of what their flavor is or their style or approach or curriculum delivery, they do that fairly well. We all know that a base education as far as knowledge and skills needs to be taught, and although we might get a different pathway, we all know the end game, and we all do that predominantly the same way. What we do differently in an IB school, or what we must do in an IB school, is that the other two facets of it, which I think are critically important. Number one, it's methodology. And so I would ask anybody who is an entrepreneur or owns your own company, or you work within a company, how many times you go to the office or you go into work every day and you see a work environment in which, out of an 8-hour workday, your employees come in, they sit down, a person is at the front of the room, lectures them, they write down notes for their job, and at the end of the week you assess how good they are by writing a test or an assessment. It's not the real world. And so when you take a look at schools that are kindergarten to grade 12, where the majority of one's brain formation takes place, we often get overlooked in how important that is. I'll stress that again. A child who's growing up from kindergarten up to grade 12, their brain forms more and develops more of their patterns, which they're going to have for the rest of their life, than any other time in their life. So if you have a system in which I grew up in, and many in the room probably grew up with, where you come in and you look at a desk and you sit in a desk in a row, and there's a teacher at the front of the room and there's a textbook, and you write a test to prove how smart you are. That is not how the rest of their life unfolds. So why do our classrooms look like that? Within an IB education, the methodology is you're going to see kids collaborate. They're going to challenge the teacher if they're right or wrong. They're going to challenge the facts that are in the textbook, and we encourage them to do that. We encourage them to take agency over their own learning, to develop skills to argue and debate at tables with other kids to make sure that, there's not just one right answer. And the other piece of it, which has been talked about today, which is we don't have a choice at an IB school. You must do it. When you sign up for it and you become it, you have to do this. It's as important as the academic rigor, and it's as important as the methodology, is this, what you refer to as soft skills. I call them fundamentals. So we cannot teach within our program 2 + 2 is 4 without also encouraging kids to be risk takers, to be courageous, to find agency within their learning. We are not allowed to have a draconian type style education where a child comes in, they must behave to the rules of the school and they must learn by memorization and rote learning. It's just not what we're allowed to do. The kids learn to collaborate, debate, and challenge what we consider to be fact today on whether or not that's actually fact in their context tomorrow. And in addition to that, the global context and the global citizenship. It is gone are the days in the world right now where people are going to go to work and they're going to work with one group of people who come from the same race, religion, creed, culture, background. People are different. The world is a melting pot, if you will, and that's how people are going to go to work, or if you're leading a company, that's how the employees that you're going to employ. It's going to be a very broad mix. It's going to be very diverse. And so the kids need to understand as they're developing that diversity and the understanding that 2 + 2 might be 4, but the way you get to that answer might be different depending on where that person's background is or where they come from. And that they need to respect that background. And they need to be educated that just because it's different doesn't mean it's wrong. And so back to your thing about it being an IB school, we're not allowed to ignore those things or make them superficial or just, we talk about it a little bit. It has to be as important as the fundamental knowledge that one has to learn. And so that's why I believe in what I do. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Craig. And just another question in relation to that, the 3 foundations which you mentioned. Is there anything that can be done to spread this into other schools in Oman across the country? Is there anything that can be done or being done, or examples in other countries where this can be done?
I think it takes brave leadership, to be honest with you. We traditionally, and I'm not slighting universities or traditional schooling and so on and so forth, but it is hard for systems to move forward and to change. And so when you have systems that have been, again, what many of us experienced growing up with schools, that's what parents know, that's what we know education to be, but we know a lot more about how people learn and how they come to be and how they develop those soft skills now. But in reality, in order to get to that place where, again, every school is doing this, it takes strong leadership to enforce that becomes as important. If I can, and I believe, that didactic teaching at the front of the classroom where I just disseminate knowledge and then write the test at the end of the week, if I think that's the best because that's how I grew up, and no one tells me that I'm not allowed to do that I have to focus on this and give equal proportion to that, I may keep on doing it over and over for the next 30 years. You need strong leadership who sets those rules and guidance, and there are no exceptions. That's the way it has to be.
Thank you, Craig. Next question is for Najah Rashdi, the DG of the Innovation Center at Ministry of Higher Education, Research and Innovation. Very excited to have you here, Najah, and to meet you in person. So the question is, how does the Innovation Center and its programs help in providing the skills needed when it comes to future skills?
Okay, so I'd like to thank you all first for creating this wonderful place to talk about future skills and having us here. Us at the Innovation Center, we focus on the growing number of innovators who are hopefully going to be leading the economy in Oman. We are encouraging people not to just seek for jobs, but also to have their own jobs, their own companies, how to become entrepreneurs. There is a big number of graduates that we see every day who are really wanting to be in that field and want to be innovators and have their own establishments and companies. But unfortunately, they would be stuck in the first step or second step, and they'll just give up. So what we do in the Innovation Center, we try to encourage those innovators and equip them with the skills that are needed to keep them going, because it's not an easy to open an innovation company or innovation establishment and be out there in the global market. So it's very important for everyone to know that it's a long journey, but it needs some kind of skills that would keep them going. For example, the commitment, accepting the failure. No one has done it from the first step or second step. So how can we encourage our children and all the youth to keep what they have in their hearts and try to learn as they're going, fail and learn and go on until they reach to the ultimate goal that they are looking for. What we are trying to do is provide the mentors. We have our own prototype center at the Innovation Center, Innovation Park Muscat, which gives those innovators the tools to use and the mentorship that they need to have their own prototype, to establish their own companies. How can we help them with mentorship, with coaching, with training that they need to reach and open their own companies and reach up to the world? We hear complaining everywhere about entrepreneurs not getting the support that they need, or the support is not enough. Well, that's our job there. We wish that everyone who wants to be in that field, to have their own inventions, innovators, ideas, to come to us and be there, stick to their ideas, and we will be there to support them with all the skills that are needed. We're talking about the advanced technological skills. We're talking about also the soft skills. How can you become a leader? How can you grow more leaders and have staff and employees who are loyal to you and who will be supporting you all the way until you reach your ultimate goal? How to form that organization with all the skills that are needed today to develop your prototype, then to develop your products, then come up into the market and be there with your strong team and survive what's happening around the world, whether it's now or in future. So that's in terms of what we do for innovators, because there are certain skills, as my colleagues have said, they were not taught before. We did not know them before. But as we grow and as we learn and we see how the world is working, we know that some sort of skills that are really important, maybe more important than the technical ones and then the technology. How can we be insisting and trying to reach to what we want to do? How can we have a partner, or how can we have a team of employees who would believe in what we do? Because invention and innovation is something that not everyone can step in just like that. You need to believe in yourself and believe that you are going to reach to the world. So I hope that we will have that growing number year by year until Oman becomes a leader in those innovation companies and create that ecosystem that we really need. Thank you.
Thank you, Najah. It's really important what you're doing, and hopefully we can get more successful people and companies coming up. How has the experience been so far in terms of the people who are coming in and what you've seen?
Yeah, we have also new programs right now. Of course, we have done so many programs in the past years, but now we are opening our Innovation Park Muscat, which will be the physical hub for all the innovators. We have our centers, incubation centers, and technology transfer center. We also have transfer and localization center. We are collaborating with all the government and private entities who are dealing with innovators, so we can have them all in one place. We are also creating our platform, which is called Oman Innovates. It's a new platform that would be launched this year, inshallah. And it will have all the pillars, the main pillars, so the innovator can have all the support that they need throughout their journey. I'm hoping that after this COVID period, inshallah, we will have more and more of those youth who are willing to come into this world, inshallah.
Inshallah, wishing you all the best for that journey.
Inshallah, inshallah.
The next question is for Dr. Shadha Al Amri, the Head of Entrepreneurship and Innovation Department at UTAS. Thank you for being here, Dr. Shadha. The question for you is, what are the success factors for skills foresight approaches?
Hello.
Yes.
Thanks for having me here. So, by the way, as well, I'm an academic in ICT sector for 15 years. So, in UTAS is University of Technology and Applied Science, and it is coming after merging in 2020. Like many institutes has merged, so the same thing. We have technical colleges plus the applied science colleges. So we are covering Oman from Masandam to Salalah. And based on the statistics, like half of Oman is coming to us. So we have like a huge responsibility for the students who are coming to our university, that they will serve the market and meet this skill set. So somehow all of us agree that there is skill sets. We in academia, we should prepare them, and the labor market should somehow take them. But there is a gap, and all of us, we notice the gap. Sometimes the sales in the labor market, they don't have enough skill set. Okay, so that we have like imbalance between what is graduate and what is taken out. So my point here about foresight. Foresight is if we translate it, it is استشراف المستقبل. Foresight is not one activity, it is like a framework. And most of the governments and countries, they are using foresight since 1990s, a long time ago. And the foresight, it should not be led by just one sector. It should be treble helix. Treble helix means me as an academia, in the government, and private sectors, we should work together for foresight, a project. It should be a project. Projects means all the stakeholders should be known, and objectives is known, and we should balance between resources we have and the outcomes. What the outcomes is the skill set. Okay? So the skill set, if it is like identified, it will be easy for me to teach my students and easy for the labor market to take them. But if this skill set is missing, so still we are in loop. We cannot go anywhere. Okay? So foresight projects, to be successful, it has different, let's say, elements or factors. And one of the best, let's say, the first factor is to identify. I should identify my needs, and different countries have different needs. Yani basically, for example, if we say for the European Union, they have these foresight projects. For the European Union, let's say, labor market profile, and through their projects, they come up with the sets, and they publish it in their website. So the academia will go to that set, the labor market will go to that set, so everyone knows what they have to do. So the same thing for Japan. Japan, what they are doing for foresight, they say, what I should do now in order to reach there. So this foresight's outputs. The same thing with German. When the German, they do this project, they do not foresight for 5 years, 10 to 15 years, 15 سنة قدام, what I want to have. Why? Because for my, let's say, academia, the circle for the academic university, 5 years. If I have the foresight just for 5 years, after 5 years, what will happen? The graduate go out. They will not find a job. But if the skill set is for 15 years, oh, I know where I want to reach. I know how to develop my curriculum. And for example, in UTAS, we are, let's say, developing the curriculums, or let's say, evolving the curriculum since, let's say, 2011. So we are now in the 3rd iteration. And before this team started, we start to have a kind of interviews with the sector. But this is just from our side. But what if me, as academia, government, and private, we work together? I think the result will be better. So this is what meant by foresight. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Shadha. You mentioned the examples of Japan and Germany. Are there any examples that UTAS has of partnerships working with other such centers in other countries?
Yeah. So when let's say, the UTAS established, we have certain goals to reach, okay? One of the goals as well is innovation, research, and entrepreneurship. And this means we have to link with outside let's say, the national level. So within now the, let's say, migration, we're trying not just to take the survey or the input from alumni and our academia. No, we are reaching outside the, let's say, national sectors. And I'm talking about IT and computing. We are reaching all of them, and we just get some, let's say, input in order to develop our curriculum. Our curriculum, and let's say about IoT. We already have IoT 5 years ago. Cloud computing, we already have it. Why? Because we are looking to outside what they want, and we just inject it. And there is an important thing, even my colleagues now, they mention it. It is not just curriculum. There is in-class and out-class skills. They can get the knowledge, but the out-class. So that's why we have to have a kind of framework. It should not be like, just we will do this year, I will not do the next year. No, it should be like a kind of framework. How I can inject those skills in class and out class. So hopefully I answer your question.
Yes, thank you so much for that, Dr.
Thank you very much.
The next question is for Mr. Saud Zakwani, the head of data science at PDO. Welcome back, Saud. I think data science is such an important area that we keep bringing you to all these events in different sectors because it applies to all of them. So the question here is, as a head of data science in PDO, what do you think are the biggest challenges facing data scientists today and in the future?
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, everyone. Before I jump into the question, definitely I'm the least experienced person in this domain here. I'm more of a student rather than in the educational sector. So I would like to share a perspective from a student. I'm one of the many fruits of Sultan Qaboos universities, a proud one for sure. And looking at the future skills, it's not correct if we look at it as a problem we're trying to solve. It's definitely not a problem, because if we look at it as a problem today, tomorrow it's still there. I think it's more of a gap on how we can set proper foundations, as my colleagues have shared, on being able to embrace what is coming in the future. Looking back a long time ago, before any one of us was even born, the future skills at that time could have been the ability of being able to communicate a specific language. And then it evolves to be some people can read and they have a better hand in doing businesses. And some people can count and mathematics come into play. And some people can experiment. Science comes into play as part of the literacy or foundation of what everyone would actually need. And this consistently evolves to where we are and will consistently evolve to where we're going to. As a graduate of SQU, I believe the one objective that I graduated out of is a passport which is stamped on my ability to learn. I studied food and nutrition. I was a student which my basic diet was shawarma and Mountain Dew. But I had to do it. I had no idea what I was doing it, but then you come to realize it's more of opening your brain capacity on what you can ingest, what you can process, and that would evolve into where I am today. So when you come back to the question, Amr, and apologies for the detour, data science as we stand today is segmented on two major disciplines. It's the ability to develop and ability to govern. At the moment, ability to develop is the scarcity. We do have in the market in Oman skill sets which somebody can create AI, but then they're very ring-fenced into it's working for me or it's working for just of us, but it's not working for everyone. And that development skill needs to be fueled to be able to create things like ChatGPTs. Technologies are there. It's the how you end up doing it. So that's the current gap I actually see in the market. In future, the evolution will be definitely different. People will not be speaking about how you create AIs, but more or how you govern AI. So it's more towards the ethics of it, the governance of it. Lawyers would not look into who's right and wrong. For example, in future, I look at a lawyer who's probably confused on who's the guilty part. Is it the manufacturer of the car, which is autonomous, or is the person who actually bought the Tesla? So all of these are governing policies that needs to be actually put in place so that we are ready for the future.
Thank you very much for that, Saud.
Thank you so much, Saud, for mentioning about ChatGPT. I think all of us might have tried ChatGPT or should try ChatGPT. Now, I read and heard that some of the ministries of higher education want to ban ChatGPT because it can write, not the Omani ones, but the international ones, because it can write your essays, it can write your answers, it can do everything what you've prepared to write your bachelor's or master's degree examinations, essays and projects like. So are we going to be afraid of such innovations, or are we going to change it completely? Picking on what Craig mentioned about rote learning and memorization, which is no more required as we see. Talking about curiosity, which was mentioned, and how do we see this going forward in the next few years?
So yesterday I actually saw an article, congratulations to ChatGPT. It actually graduated with a master's degree in business administration, I think Wharton University. So all of these tests were given to ChatGPT, and the scoring was actually made as if it was a student. And apart from mathematics, the AI aced on most of them. Do we ban it? I don't think so, because I think it's a tool on how it actually helps our educational system evolve. When Google came in, the educational system changed. It was no longer, so books were not much of a concern. You can open your book, but don't open the internet when you're sitting for exams. And if you take a step back, you can't take a book with you in an examination. And you take a step back, you can't even take a calculator with you. So all of these tools is hopefully our ability to be able to learn faster. I remember in 2018, we were trying to come up with a very catchy slogan of our automation program in PDO. And we kept on cycling. ChatGPT was not there, so we didn't get much of advice from the AI. But we came up with something quite catchy where we said, we will automate anything. If a robot can do it, then you are never meant to do it. So if ChatGPT can actually support you in creating that essay and all, then maybe you're part of the innovation side of it, or the creativity is where you need to invest more.
Thank you, Saud.
Thank you, Saud. Next question is for Dr. Fatma. It's been mentioned a few times, the importance of the soft skills, and Craig had mentioned earlier that you have to have the foundations there, that always has to be there. So where is soft skills in the overall picture of HRD future skills?
I think the future skills, as Dr. Yasmin was mentioning, that it's more important to higher managerial levels, leadership levels. And I think it's important across all organizational levels because when we speak about leadership, definitely they have to have it. And when we talk about even let's say, with due respect to all, any coffee boy even, or the cleaner for the office, this communication skills is very essential. This emotional intelligence, sometimes you as a leader, you went to your office and you are in a very bad mood, let's say, he should sense it that it's not the right time to do something or ask about something. So I think it's very essential at all organizational levels, and if the gap will be covered by our educational system, whether it's higher education or school education, I think it will be better, so that even the communication skills at all levels in the society, let's say, it's not about the workplace now, it's about us as society. It will be much better, hopefully.
Because of the importance of EI, or emotional intelligence, Do you think that because girls tend to be much better at it, are the boys in trouble in the future when it comes to this?
No, I don't think so. Because boys, they are gathering together. They have the skill, but maybe it's like it's different. You are different, dealing with your emotions differently, and ladies tend to talk, talk and reveal everything. Let's say maybe it's like exchanging information and process the feelings or whatever to get rid of whatever burden they are having. But gentlemen, they express their feelings in different way. I don't think this is the case.
Maybe the men will need more intensive classes when it comes to
maybe extensive classes for yes.
Thank you, Doctor. Next question for Dr. Yasmin.
Yes, Dr. Yasmin, you're dealing with leaders and you're trying to upskill them or reskill them. Could you talk a bit about unskilling them? Do you go through the experience of unskilling the current leaders and trying to reskill them? And is it a challenge at level at the kind of people you have at the academy who enroll? Do you have like challenges unskilling them?
Well, we don't. We are usually upskilling them because we are trying to differentiate ourselves from the academic path. So we have colleges and university, and what Royal Academy is about is different. It's focusing more on the leadership skills, and therefore more on the competencies that can equip the leaders and empower them to do better in future. However, answering this question, I just, part of the joke, being a researcher in emotional intelligence, there is no gender differences, but male are usually better in emotional intelligence than female in most of the cases. Just coming to that part. Another point that I would like to highlight since you asked that question. When we are talking about this set of skills, we don't determine certain skills that we don't need them in any job. I'll give you an example. If we are talking about curiosity, I can start the curiosity with the child at home by encouraging that child to ask questions. The moment I tell the child, don't ask questions, I am killing the curiosity as a competency from that age. It doesn't need schooling. It doesn't need college or university. It doesn't need to be a leader. It is the same set of skills that goes on for everyone in the room here, for everyone in the community. But what is the usage of it will determine which of these competencies are important for the roles you are doing. So as a mother, maybe I will encourage certain competencies in my children. As a leader, I will be focusing on competencies that I want the leaders of Oman to drive Vision Oman 2040 for better economic growth, and therefore I analyze those skills. But it doesn't mean, when we are talking about curiosity, when we are talking about emotional intelligence, according to the research, the most emotionally intelligent people are children. And as you grow up, your emotional intelligence decreases. So therefore, when you come to the academic and you have the cognitive knowledge and the academic knowledge embedded, and it's increasing the other knowledge, and you become very subject specific, you lose the touch. And the technology actually is supporting people to come into silos, and they are losing their human touch, very basic touch like empathy, which we as a society have it. If we go back to our society as Omanis, as Muslims, we have empathy, ithar, ta'atuf with others. However, when we become more technical, the studies around the world shows that the higher we go in technology, the less empathy. The last research in the world shows a very drastic decrease of empathy in the world. Now that is scary, because the more I get to technology, it's not being against the technology, but trying to feel where is the balance between where technology stands and where interpersonal skills come into the picture. From being parents, from being children, growing up the ladder in the schools, how you are infusing it in the educational system, where it is not only, as you said, teach and learn, how we are promoting innovation. I mean, Najah was talking about innovation. Why I wait till he is a leader in the private sector, or government sector, or he is a director general to think about innovation? Ya Jama'ah, innovation starts even at home. It's how you understand it, we understand it, and how we experience it, and how we give it to the people from age 1 going on to all the ladder, education, professional, and going up. Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Yasmin.
Thank you, Dr.
I
Yasmin.
diverted from your question a bit, but back
think,
to your question, the answer is no.
Yeah, no, it's very important to hear it from you because many talk about unskilling. And it's a concern for senior people. How do I unskill myself? But upskilling is the approach you've taken. So thank you.
There is the old saying that.
However, Sadiq, I'm sorry. In the process of upskilling, the unskilling happens by self-awareness. So within the executive education, we put a lot of competencies on the self-awareness. And self-awareness of a person promotes them to unskill themselves, because I cannot go on unskilling each and every person. Every person unskilling is different than other person. But when I give him the tool to be self-aware, then he will know what I'm lacking, and therefore that person unskill himself, and then that helps him to upskill.
Thank you for explaining that to you.
I think self-awareness is so important, and when I've done some interviews for hiring, I've always looked at the self-awareness, and I usually like it when that person says, actually I'm not so good at this, or I can work more on this. This always kind of gives me confidence that this will be someone who will be able to do the job very well. So the question is for Craig. Back to the topics of schools, and this is a very important question. How do schools decide these days what to teach with a focus on such fast-paced change in the world?
So I go back to fundamentals. I think that fundamentals from an academic side are still going to be there. Again, I go back to the cliche 2 + 2 is still 4. So that decision in many ways is top-down. You take a look, there is an entry point or an exit point, if you will, from an expectation for universities, for colleges, for the next step when they get past grade 12. And so they have to be set up for whatever that game is. So they have to kind of fit into that system. So you have to scaffold your curriculum and so on and so forth, and backwards plan from that. And that's kind of set and out of the hands in many ways from K-12 schools, because that's already established, and you kind of have to play the game and set up the kids to be successful from the academic side. The challenge, I think, that schools face, and I would put it out this to the audience, if you were to think about all the things we're discussing here right now, and you were to close your eyes for a minute and think, my own children, my own grandchildren, right now they're in school today. Are you confident, if I were to ask you what they're doing, would you be confident to say, well, yes, my kids are in a collaborative environment in which they're debating, they're arguing, they're challenging the knowledge as well as learning what's in a textbook? Or are they still in the same school environment that you and I went to 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago? And so that's where I go back to my point about leadership and change. If we want children to develop a mindset where they have grit and they have the ability to develop the skills and practice the skills that you need for your companies or to lead new companies, it has to start not when they're 18, 19, 20 in university. It has to start a lot earlier than that, and that comes down to expectations. And so what are your teachers expected? What are your school leaders expected to do? And then they will have to follow suit, and they will have to apply that. And if you want more soft skills in the schools, then it has to come with some leadership to say that's the way it's going to be. And I'll go back to the word practice. Practice is really important, because no one here who plays sport, no one here who cooks, does so with perfection the first time you try it. Just like when you walk, you fall, and you develop those skills as you grow because you practice. If the schools are set up in a way, in an environment that do not allow children to practice and fail, recover, focusing on the skills that we're talking about today, which are going to make them successful in the future, then we're failing the future, right? We're not giving the kids the ability to practice what they need to give you what you want as company leaders. And so it comes down to, how are we going to lead and make that change and make sure it's an expectation, without exception, in all schools so kids develop in a way that we want them to?
Thank you, Craig. And that question you had about whether, if we know what our children at school, if they're in the right environment and we can say for sure that this is the right place they want to be, I think that's a very important thing, and it'd be interesting to see what people think about that as well.
I think it's very interesting to speak about foresight and about what the schools are preparing for the future. So when we look at preparing for the next 5 years, that happens in the college, university level. And what we're preparing in 10 years happens at the college level. But what's happening at the school level, at the grassroots, at kindergarten, is you're preparing for 20, 25 years. And the future skills in 20, 25 years is something which we have not even heard of. And so that's something important to take home. We'd like to open the panel questions coming from the audience. If anybody has a question, maybe we could take 2 questions from the audience and then we can go back to the panel questions. So if you could raise your hands. Yeah. If you could introduce yourself, which organization you come from and what you do, and then ask the question, please. And if you can say whom the question is addressed to, that will also help.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you for this very informative session. I'm very happy to be part of it today. My name is Abdurrahim Al-Farsi. I am from Blue and Bronze. I'm the founder of the 4-Box program. My question, I will just address it to the panel, and anybody who's ready to answer, I will be more than happy. The question is, I've heard in one of my LinkedIn session, they're talking about the skills. Any skill, it will only last for a maximum of 5 years, and that's why we need to reskill. So anybody got any idea about that? The other part, in my 4-books program, the first book talks about unlearning things, because the problem, some of the knowledge that we are holding is a limiting factor for our growth and progress. So if you can shed some light on that, unlearning things, or the old things that which might be limiting us, please.
Sure. So anybody would like to take the lifespan of skills and unlearning skills?
Okay. Only because I have the microphone, but I So I would put it like this. How many of you, if I went back to your grade 11 or grade 12 tests, and I put them all out in front of you, your exams right now, would be very confident to take those tests today? Okay? And so when you think about where the world has gone, it's gone from a knowledge-based economy or a knowledge-based memorization, rote learning approach to be one of information. It's accessing information. You all have mobile phones, I suspect. Some of you might even have 2 on you, where you can access information at a touch of a button. So what people are upskilled, how they're skilled, and the knowledge they have right now, tomorrow might be obsolete and need to change. That's why we go back to what I think is constantly overlooked, which are these soft skills or these foundations. It's the child's and or adult's ability to learn and ability to adapt. Doctor commented earlier that businesses are contemplating working from home models and turning in their businesses into training centers so that they can focus on the upskill. That only works if you're hiring employees that it doesn't matter what they know, it's more their ability to come to know. So the focus very much is not about forgetting information, because as I said, the exams we all took, we've forgotten that information. So people have the ability to forget. Just ask my wife, she tells me every day. But we have the ability to forget, but we also, it's the focus on the ability to learn and take on new things, and organizations looking at how do we provide resources for people, getting the right people on the bus who know how to learn and are open-minded to learning new things, and setting our organizations up so that we can upskill them, regardless of what the information is, the current information or the needs are.
Thank you for that. Do we have another question from the audience? Yes. If you could introduce yourself and ask the question.
Yeah, Assalamu alaikum. Yaqub Al-Ghatrayfi from College of Banking and Financial Studies. Thank you very much indeed for this gathering. And all of us are taking the country to the future and preparing our learners in the schooling or the tertiary level. Thank you very much again. This is a very holistic, a very complementary approach. So we cannot talk about, schooling system in isolation, tertiary level in isolation, and the required market as well in isolation. So what I'm saying is here, we need identity that driving all these, sectors together in order to come into a conclusion, like, the framework, the set of framework, and the foresight you are talking about, one of the, panel. So this is very important just to sit together, and like this one, in a very open, sharp vision to the future for a certain period of time, 5 years, 10 years, predicting what exactly required. And I like the thing that context-wise, very important as well, and cultural. So here, sometimes some of these skills are, buried by this culture. So we need to focus on this particular culture more into that skills. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you so much. So do we have...
Can I go for this?
Yes, you can go for it.
Okay. And for example, when you have seen that everyone is in isolation, some of them should work together. If we go for the experiment from Germany, the leading project was the Ministry of Education and Research. So they were the lead of the project, and they involved all the sectors. And at the end of the program or that project, they come with the skill sets, and then all the country knows it and work accordingly. Okay? So basically, there should be a lead, mostly, even in Australia, by the way. The government was the lead, and then, but not the only one who work. They involve the private and academia with them in a well-defined framework, with a timeline, with the stakeholders, with all the professionals, in order to come with that set of skills. Thank you.
Thank you so much. My next question is to Najah Rashdi. And we all talk about transformation, digital transformation, business transformation.
Yeah, I think there were a few more questions, but I think we'll need to go through these questions, and if there's time, we'll have the Q&A.
Sure, thank you. So the question is to Najah Rashdi. We talk about business transformation, digital transformation, and many forms of transformation, including skills transformation. So what tools can be used to enhance employee buy-in and in the engagement through the transformation process?
Yes, Sadiq. This is a very important point that maybe many organizations need to really care and think about it. Leading an organization through transformation is a very important transitional period. It could pass very smoothly and it could fail. I would say maybe each of us, they are in their own organizations. If you think about 3 or 4 or maybe more positions that I don't know whether to say sorry to say or not sorry to say, but can be replaced with younger generations, like school children, for example, who have got the skills that are needed at that seat. If we talk about knowledge, if we talk about basic technical skills, if we talk about the ability to analyze information, present, our children now are very much brighter than we were years ago. I've got a child who came to me yesterday giving solutions for the Russian-Ukraine problem. And she had 3 or 4 options, analyzing all what's happening in about Palestine and all that. I've got a child who is holding all the financials at home, and she's responsible for that, and she's doing very well. I've got another one who does an investment for herself, and she's done very well for the past 2 years. We have bright children with a very beautiful mindset, and they do what they do. Why? Because they have the passion, because they own what they're doing, because they allowed to make mistakes, because I've opened that culture at home for them to be very creative and think of other ways to do what they're doing. If we do that in our organizations, I assure you, it will be a big, smooth way for any transformation we want. We need to assure our staff and our employees that it is okay to get out of the box, to do mistakes, to talk about what they think is the good decision, despite of what the directions are from up there. We need to make it bottom up sometimes. We need to have them think with us, involve them, feel the ownership, feel that they are the leaders of what they're doing. I think those simple tools, very simple tools, would really help in having those employees, retaining them. Because what tragedy we are going through now is not being able to give the salaries they want, but not providing the culture that they want. And maybe some of the reasons that people leave is not because of financial matters, it's because they don't have the culture that they need. People are looking for somewhere where they can be more creative, where they can go back to being a 4-year-old child and be able to be involved, think, and give out solutions that some might be wrong, but some might be right. How can we lead our organizations through the transformation without having the buy-in and the engagement of our employees? We cannot. So it's easy to go out there and say that our organization is going to be a cutting-edge, technology-based. But without having the staff who are right there with me, supporting me, and are engaged, fully engaged, owning what they're doing, then I think it will be very, very difficult. So any transformation needs those simple tools, and it's no matter where we want to reach, it's having our staff with us and working together as a team. I think that's most important.
Thank you so much, Najah, for that. The next question is for Saud Zakwani. Saud, what role does PDO play in shaping the future job market?
Okay, so in PDO, we stand on the demand side, and the educational system is the supply side. And I think one of the significant roles that we play is being able to map between the demand and supply. What future skills that we actually foresee and understand that we are going to require today and tomorrow, that is very clearly communicated through different universities, through different government bodies. We have alignments with a couple of universities where we open up our experiences in hoping that it influences their curriculum. Very good examples of GUTech, NISWA, and before NISWA, and SQU. Their data science program, for example, is much influenced on what we are expecting of the graduates coming out with the skill sets of the future. At the moment, a lot of restrictions are regulating us on-prem, but we know that this is going to evolve within the next 4 years. So why do we upskill the graduates in on-prem solution? We are actually converting that curriculum into cloud. On the other hand is, I think in the essence, it comes from the vision itself, PDO, being renowned and respected for the excellence of the people, of our people meaning employees and the nation itself. There is a large investment of being able to understand how we cater internally and how we look at outside to be able to sustain the growth. We do have scholarship programs where we earmark and ring-fence specific skill sets where we know that these are the skill sets that we would require in future. But all in all, I think one of the biggest contribution apart from our influentials and all, I would consider PDO as the major incubator for future skills. If we look historically until now, the skill sets that Oman is actually embarking on, one day or the other were incubated in PDO. We're looking at Lean, for example. Lean has been over the past few years in PDO. We've matured quite well. We understand the value. We are very much in partnership with the government. Agile methodologies. We're currently in 2018. We were the first organization to actually incubate data science, data engineering, Scrum Masters, digital architects, a list of all of these future skill sets that now other organizations are actually looking into. So as an incubator for methodologies, framework, policies, technologies, we also have a very important and significant hand in the future skills market.
Thank you, Saud. You mentioned about collaborating with universities. I know you have a school. Do you collaborate with other schools as well on a similar level you do with universities?
So we have an external affairs, which is the umbrella for the whole corporate responsibility, and they entail some of the specifications based on the organization itself. If it's engineering, then the corporate functional discipline head becomes very involved in that specific area. For schools, we do have departments in external affairs who are very much engaged in understanding the curriculum and also part and parcel influencing. As for my experience and my department, our current engagements is with the government and universities.
Thank you, Saud. So we're coming to an end of the panel, so just one last question. This is to Dr. Shadha Al Amri. Dr. Shadha, what is the talent management framework and how it can be used to evaluate future skills?
Yeah, okay. So I'll start from the KPI, the Global Competitiveness Index, اللي هو مقياس الجاهزية العالمي. This KPI, by the way, one of Oman Vision 2040 KPI. If we go to this KPI, one of the pillars is human capital, اللي هم الموارد البشرية. Okay? Under that human capital, you have the skills again. So if you notice, we can measure how we are going and be successful in 2040 if we take care about skills and we take care about the human capital. If we go to the framework, talent management framework, what is this? Here is, I need to manage the individuals, not just the whole, let's say, institutes, but I need to take care of individuals, either to recruit new ones or to retain, to keep my, let's say, talents. So how is that? The institutes should have a kind of framework. Some of them, they have like 7 steps, some of them have 4 steps. It depends on the, let's say, institutes. The main aim is to see to those individuals. We have talents. If we give them the right environment, the right tools, they will be very, let's say, beneficial to the institution. يعني مثلا instead of bringing, let's say, someone from outside as مثلا professional to give us, let's say, their feedback for like 3 or 6 years project, I mean 6 to 3 month project. If my talents inside the institutes can be, let's say, grow, and I can invest on them, then they can be the experts. No need to bring someone from outside. And the same thing in the framework, if I have let's say, the vision to keep them, I will keep them. Otherwise, they will go to somewhere else. So talent management system is to keep my talents as well to get the talents from outside. So this is basically the framework. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Doctor. Because we're short on time, there were 2 questions. Maybe we can take them together. There was one from National University, with his hand up in the grey suit. And then there was one more question over there. Lady in green. Yes.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Venkatesh from RAB Consulting. I have a question to Dr. Yasmin and Madam Najah. We have been speaking on future skills. So there's been a lot of work which has happened across the world on future skills. The World Economic Forum has done several industry-wise panels in which they have defined and casted future skills. And there's so much of work happening across the globe on future skills. Oman, Vision 2040 speaks a lot on skills and talent and stuff like that. So what I wanted to ask is, wouldn't it be a good idea to establish a Oman Future Skills Framework, which could be a think tank, a set of think tank coming together, educationalists, corporates, people from various walks of life, external experts who come in, who work together and establish a Oman Future Skills Framework. And then that becomes your bedrock for connecting education, connecting corporates, connecting governments, so that we all focus on a set of commonly defined skills and the way we all understand it. Today we all speak about it, but in different terminologies, different, etc. Wouldn't it be a good idea? I'm not really sure whether something of that sort is already happening. If it is not happening, can the Ministry of Higher Education or the Royal Academy spearhead an initiative like this? And I think that would really do a lot of good in terms of unifying efforts which is happening across in terms of future skills.
Take it together.
Thank you very much.
Can we also have the second question and then we can answer?
Cedric, can you give the microphone?
Hello, everybody. This is Naveen Safia. I have been teaching in College of Commerce and Economics for almost 20 years now. Just now I have moved on to International Foundation Academy. I understand everybody is doing a lot of work. The government, the private entrepreneur.
Can you put the microphone here to your...
I see that everybody is doing great work. Be it government, private companies, private universities and all that. I was talking about all those people, if you go back to your own classes, there are some who are the cream, and there are some who are leftovers. And I wish, have you heard of this saying, young man can walk fast, but the old man knows the way. How about showing the way to those who are left behind? Most of us take individual responsibility and are flourishing very well. Those who are left out, how can we show them a guide, some kind of guidance for those who don't have proper parents who guide, for those who are not really on the top in the classes? How do we put them on the path to self-acceleration? Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I answer the first question?
Yes,
and
Dr.
then
Yasmin.
I answer a bit of the second question, if you allow me. Regarding the framework for the future skills, Oman has established already the framework for the future skills. It's both available in Arabic and English. If you Google it, you will find both documents. I think this conference is a good platform. You have a very good question, because I'm sure that a lot of people are not aware of the framework. It's about awareness. It's not about whether it exists or not. The framework is there, and World Economic Forum was taken into consideration when it was designed and done. And of course, it's all aligned with Vision Oman 2040. Now we need to do something. There is a task for everyone here in the room, whether they're coming from academic, whether they're coming from executive education, government, or private sector. To what extent you are aligning Vision Oman 2040 and this framework in the competency and the skills set that you are handling in your own institutions or in your own context. So coming back, whether that framework exists, yes, it exists as the key document there. However, how you utilize it, it depends according to your institution and the context. And a lot of people look at that framework as if it is related to the education only, not even to the higher education. But if you look at the framework, the fundamental competencies and skills are already there. So I hope I answered that question. Going to the second question, because it was very interesting. This is something that we do in the executive education as a Royal Academy. So in all our programs, I'll take an example of اعتماد program for the private sector. For every month throughout the 10-month or 11-month journey that those leaders have taken, every month we would bring leaders from the sector who are sharing their stories, their struggle, their understanding, their knowledge and experience to the young generation. And those sessions, we call them Meet a Leader. And they used to be very inspiring to them. And they used to be very helpful. And sometimes those sessions can be, I brought one speaker and I told him, thank you very much. In 1 hour and a half, you have given a mini MBA. So the whole course that they are doing in a year time, that gentleman came and he did it in 1 hour and a half through taking them through the journey where he was an employee and how he went up the ladder and sharing with them the knowledge and skills and also the challenges and how he went about doing that balance, how he went about decision making. Here's only one example. In all the leadership programs currently we have in the Royal Academy, we have Leaders Berza, so we have leadership also forums, and we have also in all the programs. This is injected in all the programs, no matter what. I'm currently working on developing Leaders and Future Foresight program, and for each module, we bring the experts in the field who had the knowledge and skill. And those people will tell the others. So we are trying to use the experience and backing up with whatever they are learning through classrooms or through their coaching or through their leadership camps, whatever different learning modes they are taking to get these skills. So you are right in that. Maybe we are doing it at executive level. I am not sure to what extent, though I'm coming from education and higher education background for the past 25 years. To what extent we are utilizing it, the Minister of Higher Education currently, you are coming from college background and university background, and I'm very proud that I have been in that sector for so many years. The Minister of Higher Education is emphasizing a lot on the concept of bringing the sectors or the market and their experiences within the academic field. So I think all the colleges and universities currently they have committees where they are working with subject matter experts and people who are in the field, in the market. Plus, I'm sure that a lot of you are doing a lot of open sessions where you are bringing the people who are more experienced and using them as guest speakers in your own sessions. I have seen maybe that very much evident where I work in the College of Banking, for instance, for so many years. In the Strathclyde program, for instance, for MBA, we used to bring the subject matter not from academic field, but we used to bring them from the market. And they are more experienced. So COs, we go to COs and say, please come in. These MBA students need to understand that experience from you, not from the book. So that kind of an experience that we can do it. I think we replicated the same thing with Muscat University when I was working on the board with them, and even with UTAS at the moment. We are trying to infuse this kind of concept where we are being people who can also back up the learning that is happening inside the classroom. So I think this can be an answer to the question that you have done from my perspective, but please feel free to share.
So statistically speaking, a lot of these surveys we do, and most of the time you tend to expect a normal distribution, meaning what you said. So you have 5% which are exceptional and the others which stay in between. And back to statistics itself, if you were to change the question, you end up with a normal distribution. And every question, if you continue asking, you end up with normal distribution. I think what we end up failing is we look at the defining factors of how you defined leftovers and the leaders, and we just look at one of the pictures of these normal distribution. If you go into detail, each questions, the 5% could be very different students. They could be if you change the question, or in an educational system, you take a student, you put him in a different environment, he might be exceptional. If you take a student and you give him a different exam, he might be exceptional. But then we tend to build this box and define it that this is a wall, and this is a wall, and this is a wall, and if you fit in, you are exceptional. But if you fit out, you are not. So rather than looking at it that way, I think one of the areas that we need to look in future skills is the box is not important as the questions and the students themselves.
Something over here. When you say leftover, this is a traditional way of thinking. But we should understand that different talents. And for example, some of the students, they are good in math, some of them, they are good in reading, and so on. So we cannot say someone is in the top and someone in the bottom. So it depends now on the traditional system of, let's say, grading or assessments. So maybe that is where we go further, not just examination. The assessment should not be just examination. Some people, they got GPA 3. But when they go to skills like negotiation or networking, they are down. So we should somehow find a system to, let's say, different talents have different way of assessing. Maybe something like this, so no one left over. Everyone is special. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, everyone. Just quickly, one point that Dr. Taqi mentioned in his keynote speech was about the softwares which we can make more tailored programs as well for students and employees, so we can get to understand where their weaknesses, and then we can kind of take steps to see how those can be improved, or where maybe they should be where their focus should be shifted. So I want to thank you to all our great panelists today for all the inputs that they put and all the great work that they're doing. Please give them a round of applause. Thank you. Thank you.